No contract, no peace!
For the first time in 15 years, more than 11,000 movie and television writers in Hollywood's Writers Guild went on strike.
This is absolutely an existential moment for the writing profession.
We want to ensure that working on The Handmaid's Tale isn't the last good job that any of us has.
The decision brought productions to a halt and dealt a blow to an industry that's been rocked by the pandemic and the new ways people watch movies and television.
The industry is saying, we're still not sure where this is going. We're losing money on these businesses. This is not the time to be trying to squeeze us.
As hundreds of writers from Los Angeles to New York took to the picket lines, we sat down with the writers and union members at the center of the strike to understand what led to this moment and what's next. The strike has pitted the Writers Guild of America, the WGA, against the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, the AMPTP, which represents the major studios.
We came to the table with all these issues, and what we got back really felt kind of like gaslighting.
Yalin Chang is a showrunner on the Hulu series The Handmaid's Tale.
Blessed be the fruit.
She's also a member of the Writers Guild's negotiating committee. She was in the room when negotiations with the studios came to a head.
The companies came back refusing to engage with us on our core existential issues.
The AMPTP did not respond to requests for comment about Chang's gaslighting accusations, but studio executives say every effort was made to engage in meaningful discussions and bargaining. Many of the issues dividing the two sides are tied to the ways streaming has completely transformed the industry.
As the studios moved towards a streaming model, it was an arms race.
Justin Halburn is a board member for the Writers Guild, as well as a showrunner and writer for the ABC sitcom Abbott Elementary.
I've been teaching here at Abbott Elementary for a year now. The staff here is incredible.
Everybody was trying to amass the most amount of content, as many shows as they could possibly kind of pump out to compete with all the other streaming services. Then suddenly the orders of shows became much smaller. The amount of weeks that they were asking writers to work also became much smaller.
In a network television show like Abbott Elementary, a writer typically has enough work to support themselves for an entire year.
Because we make 22 episodes of Abbott Elementary, our writers are able to make a good living and live in Los Angeles. We should not be the anomaly.
But in the new world of streaming, episode orders have declined to 8 or 12. And unlike network shows, many stream shows don't go into production until most of the scripts are completely mapped out.
There's this thing called mini rooms, which have taken over Hollywood, and it's the studios deciding, hey, we're going to put together a room of writers, but you're not producing the show. You're just like writing some scripts and breaking out the season, all of the hardest stuff there is to do in writing. And because you're not producing, we're not going to pay you the producing fee. We're going to pay you the minimum, which is the least amount of money they can legally pay us.
In response to the WGA's concerns, the studios agreed to increase minimum rates for writers working in those types of development rooms. Still, writers say this new production model has made screenwriting more like a gig economy job.
Between seasons 1 and 2, we had a writer who had to drive an Uber. Most shows, you'll have a writer who gets a 10-week gig or a 12-week gig, and that could be it for the whole year. That could be it for 18 months. And a writer simply can't live on that.
The studios say that employment as a writer has almost nothing in common with standard gig jobs.
The studios would argue that this is not a gig economy. For starters, the pension and health benefits are a lot better. And secondly, you're employed on a weekly episodic basis, and you're getting paid every week a set wage.
The studios are also confronting a rapidly changing business. Subscriber growth for many of the streaming companies has slowed, and viewership has declined for network and cable shows.
They're always looking for places where they can trim costs, whether it's reducing staffing within their own companies or finding ways to squeeze every penny out of a production budget.
The last time the Writers Guild of America went on strike against the Hollywood studios was in November 2007. It lasted for 100 days. The strike centered on the way DVD sales and video on demand were quickly replacing rerun syndication as a main source of revenue. The writers wanted their fair share of those profits.
We want our fair share. We're here because we care.
The 07-08 strike was incredibly successful because we won coverage of the internet. So for all the shows that are streaming now, it wouldn't be covered by our union if we had not struck.
In the moments before the recent negotiations reached a standstill, the writers say they weren't the ones to end the talks.
It was the studios who came back and said, if you don't give up on these countless proposals that are essential and core to your negotiation, then there's no point in talking anymore. So they were the ones who walked away, not us. We were there. We had pizza, we were waiting.
The studios say that they listened to the WGA's proposals and presented the writers with a comprehensive offer.
The studios have prospered enormously from our shows. The budget for writing for each show has stagnated while show budgets have ballooned.
The WGA says nearly half of guild writers working in television are being paid minimum rates. To address these concerns, the studios say they offered a substantial wage increase and created a higher floor for mid-level writers' compensation. But the increases didn't meet the WGA's demands.
The WGA is trying to put protections into our contract for writers so that we can get a guaranteed number of weeks of pay at a minimum that allows us to live and work in Los Angeles.
The AMPTP said in a statement that its offer included generous increases in compensation for writers and that it was willing to keep negotiating.
The studios have offered increases in, starting wages for writers. They would tell you we've offered our most significant wage increase in, 25 years.
And then there's the issue of residuals, which are like royalty payments for screenwriters. Writers are typically paid less in residuals for stream shows compared to those on broadcast TV.
The streamers have been very protective of their data, so we have no idea how well shows are doing. We have to take their word for it. We would like some sort of compensation that's tied to the success of the show.
The AMPTP has provided some counteroffers, but they did not meet the WGA's demands.
The studio streamers and networks, they have offered raises on residuals and on minimum wages.
Late night shows were the first to feel the ripple effects of the strike, with most heading into reruns.
I also feel very strongly that what the writers are asking for is not unreasonable.
Some content providers are in a better position than others to weather the strike. Streaming services like Netflix and HBO Max all tend to make their shows far in advance, but the fall TV season for broadcast networks could be delayed.
The writers' room for season 3 of Abbott was supposed to start May 2nd, and we struck, and so we are not able to start our writers' room and get to work.
On The Handmaid's Tale, we were breaking and writing our final season. When the strike hit, we just all closed down the room. It was heartbreaking.
As the standoff continues, writers throughout the industry continue to take to the picket lines.
None of us wanted this strike, but we are fighting.
We want to be writing Abbott Elementary. We all want to be making television shows. We just want to be paid fairly by the studios for doing it.